Today, we're talking about VP Harris picking Governor Tim Walz as her running mate, the stock market's worst day in years, violent protests in Bangladesh and the UK, and other top news for Wednesday, August 7th. Stay informed while remaining focused on Christ with the pour-over today. Here's the quote of the day. Prayer is as natural an expression of faith as breathing is of life. Jonathan Edwards. Let's get started with some espresso shots. VP and presidential hopeful Harris announced her VP pick yesterday, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Walz, 60, is a two-term governor who previously served 12 years as a U.S. representative. Prior to politics, he was a teacher and football coach and is known for bringing free school meals, child tax credits, and paid family medical leave to Minnesota. As governor, he's faced criticism for responding too slowly to the protests following George Floyd's murder and his handling of the pandemic. Walz was a surprise pick. Most analysts expected Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro, a popular centrist Democrat from a key swing state. Former President Trump sent an email to supporters following the announcement calling Walz dangerously liberal. Harris, who officially became the Democratic nominee Monday through virtual voting, announced her choice online, later introducing him at a Philadelphia rally. Whatever the outcome of 2024's election, the hope of Christians won't be shaken. Our truest home is God's kingdom, and He is our ultimate King. Live as exiles here, serving as Christ's winsome, peacemaking ambassadors, with your eyes fixed on your heavenly home. 2 Corinthians 5:14, 19, and 20 says, "For the love of Christ compels us, since we have reached this conclusion that one died for all, and therefore all died. He has committed the message of reconciliation to us. Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, since God is making His appeal through us." U.S. stocks saw their worst day in nearly 2 years on Monday. Major U.S. stock market indexes, Dow Jones, S&P 500, and NASDAQ, all tumbled more than 2.5%, with tech stocks being hit particularly hard. So, why all the drama? Some investors are worried the Fed is being too slow to cut interest rates and believe last week's report of rising unemployment is foreshadowing recession. Others are worried that tech stocks have been overvalued due to AI hype. The panic was heightened by Japanese stocks plummeting 12.4% on Monday, its largest daily drop since 1987, caused in part by concerns over the strengthening Japanese yen. In typical stock market fashion, things looked very different just one day later. Yesterday, aka Turnaround Tuesday, Japanese stocks recovered 10% and U.S. stocks rebounded 1%. Too often, we let eternally insignificant things like the ups and downs of the market control us. Seeking to steward money well is a good thing, but keep your focus on the giver rather than the gifts. 2 Corinthians 8 verse 9 says, "For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. Though He was rich, for your sake He became poor, so that by His poverty you might become rich." Riots are rocking Bangladesh and the UK. Last month in Bangladesh, students began peacefully protesting the country's practice of reserving about 56% of government jobs for certain people groups, families of some veterans, ethnic minorities, disabled, and transgender people. The so-called Gen Z revolution prompted Bangladesh's Supreme Court to drop the quota percentage to 7%, but not before clashes with counter-protesters and police turned deadly. Hundreds were killed, over 11,000 were arrested, schools were closed, internet was cut, and curfews were imposed. Anti-government protests ensued, prompting Prime Minister Hasina to resign and flee to India on Monday. Meanwhile, in the UK, a week of widespread violent disorder has followed the knife attack that killed 3 girls. Misinformation online incorrectly claimed the perpetrator was a Muslim asylum seeker, sparking anti-immigration protests, counter-protests, and over 400 arrests. It's easy to become angry and indignant over world events, but much more difficult to live with the tension of desiring change while simultaneously loving everyone involved. Followers of Christ are called to live in that tension, loving the very people they work against. Luke 6, verse 32 says, "If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them."
Your kids still have a lot of reading left to do this year. Novels on summer reading lists, which we're sure they'll finish long before Labor Day, billboards on family road trips, and textbook after textbook this fall. Put first things first this back-to-school season, and make sure they have their own copy of the most important book. CSB has a Bible for every age and every stage. Easy for Me Bibles for the littlest readers, Explorer Bibles for your junior page turners, and Study Bibles for your curious contrarian. There's plenty of options for mom and dad too, like the CSB Note-Taking Bible or the Old and New Testament handbooks. Check out the link in our show notes to browse the full back-to-school catalog and get your whole family in the Word this year.
In other brews, here's a rapid round of updates. Do not pass go, Google. In a landmark decision, a federal judge ruled Google has illegally maintained a monopoly, citing the tech giant's arrangements to be the default search engine on nearly every phone and computer. Google, which may eventually be forced to sell part of its business, plans to appeal, saying it achieved dominance by offering the best search engine. Hurricane Debbie has been quite the downer. The slow-moving storm made landfall as a Category 1, dumping a month's worth of rain on Florida and forcing treacherous evacuations. At least 5 people have died. Debbie has weakened to a tropical storm, but is expected to drop 30 inches of rain on coastal South Carolina and Georgia this week. 5 U.S. troops were wounded in a suspected rocket attack on a base in Iraq Monday. The attack, which Pentagon leaders called a dangerous escalation, may be related to Iran's promise to avenge the top Hamas leader killed in Tehran last Wednesday. Israel hasn't taken responsibility for the assassination, but is bracing for Iran's retaliation. Simone Biles bid adieu to Paris with silver on floor, with teammate Jordan Chiles landing a dramatic bronze. Cole Hocker ran to 1,500-meter gold and an Olympic record. The U.S. WNT is headed to the gold medal match, and LeBron and company are Final Four bound. Meanwhile, 9,751 miles away in French Polynesia's Tahiti, American Caroline Marks surfed to gold. Deadpool and Wolverine are continuing their run as superist anti-hero and top dog at the box office. The latest star-studded release from Marvel is leading the pack as the highest-grossing domestic R-rated film of all time. Deadpool and Wolverine enjoyed the second biggest opening so far this year, topped only by the beloved cast of emotions in Disney Pixar's Inside Out 2. And that's all we have for today. Thanks so much for listening. If you're listening on the Apple Podcasts app, give us a 5-star rating and drop a review. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a follow and hit the notification bell to never miss a new episode. We appreciate your support and hope you have a great day. We'll see you on Friday.
Hey, it's Kathleen, head of content at The Pour Over. I wanted to share our marketing plan for The Pour Over today with you. Okay, it is you. Yep. You listening right now, you're who we want to inspire to grow this podcast. So if you want to see more Christians have healthy relationships with the news in this super mild, nothing crazy happening at all election year, would you share The Pour Over today with your friends, family, small group, next door neighbors, people in the checkout line at the grocery store, whoever? It would mean a lot to us. Thanks for being a listener.